can you tell me this and then here? I don't have to take pictures of you, but can we hear the kids? That's the hardest thing is finding what it was like during and after the road. Can you tell me? Seriously. Just tell me what you remember.
What I remember?
Yeah.
Well, I do remember when Route 2 and 4 were just one lane, and that it used to go by our elementary school, which was the old one in Huntingtown, which is now, I don't know what they use it for now, but it's crossing the fire department. And there would be maybe 4 cars a day that you would see go by there, and that was the main road.
That's what people keep saying, like 4 cars a day.
Well, when I grew up here, I remember dirt and gravel roads, and I'm 44 years old, so it wasn't that long ago. Cox Road in Huntingtown was a dirt, gravelly kind of road for the longest time, and I remember learning to drive on that road after they had just paved it. And of course, my brother taught me how to drive, and I didn't have a driver's license, and neither did he. But you could go out on the road because there was no one on the road. And I remember when they did finish all the way down to, Route 2 and 4, made it the dual lane road, and that was
Thank you, I appreciate it.
87, right, because before to go to Solomon's, it took every bit of an hour. I lived every bit of an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, depending upon who you were behind going down the road.
You could be stuck behind a tobacco guy, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, and that would happen. But yeah, I do remember a lot of that. As I said, I'm not that old.
You're the same age as me.
Right.
Now, did you go to Northern or Calvert?
I went to Northern.
What do you go to Calvert? No, I'm a Baltimorean, as my mother would say.
I went to Northern when Northern was first built.
What was the first year?
The first graduating class was 75, which was my middle brother. So I graduated in 77. The school was built in 1970. Had to have been 72, maybe. I think graduated 72.
Do you remember anything about the rivalry between the two schools? That's one of the topics, Mike.
Oh yes. Because all the kids that I went to high school with had gone to school with everybody else in the county throughout all of our years. And when Northern was first started, it only went to 10th grade, and then they added a year on each year.
Oh, wow.
So when we started there, the whole school was 6th through 10th grade. There was no Northern middle.
Did you go to Northern also?
My mother, I'm Catholic. I went to St. Mary's and Lorraine, and then finished my last 2 years at Calvert High School. But I wish I had known you were coming. I'm doing a whole panel. I'm doing 2 picture projects, and I'm going to touch on the second one tonight. I'm doing Calvert County now, and then I'm doing a whole transportation section. I mean, I've got old horses.
She's amazing. You need her in your class.
When can you come visit?
Yes,
After session. I really can't do any more
What's
talks.
after session?
May 1st, after May 1st.
Okay.
Okay. Guess where this used to be?
Fowling Point? I don't know.
This is before the Benedict Bridge.
Let's take a picture of this.
Oh, I mean, I just love this picture.
Great one, like I said.
That's how they got across. 2 cars at a time.
That's their ferry.
Yeah.
That's so
Where
awesome.
did you get those? Are great.
Oh, I'm going to say, and horse and buggy.
Oh my good. Do you know those people?
Yes.
You do?
She knows everything.
And I love the old oxen.
Yeah, my dad had those.
I've seen transportation where they've taken
Picture.
that is wire.
Isn't that I love that.
Oh,
That is
this is from
wild.
Phil. It's a Bodine. That's why.
Oh.
I love that. Farming.
Isn't that a cool
Transportation.
Yeah.
Do you know this guy?
I know who they are,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to find out what they're in our old boats. So I've got all kinds. This will be a
May, after May 1st?
after May 1st. I'll be glad to talk to your class.
I'm going to give you my phone number. Well, I'm at Calvert High School. Oh, good.
She is the perfect person.
Andrew told me you were
Very cool. I wish, I knew about it. I have.
Thank you.
Here in Dunkirk, and then if I was going to her house, I was going up, and she was coming to my house, she's coming down. And
if you were going to town,
Going up
there was
here.
never a town in this county that you were going to. If you were going to town, you were going to Annapolis and Washington.
right,
what I heard.
right. Oh yes, town. That's what that. Yeah, it wasn't Prince Frederick.
definitely not
going to
Prince
town was
Frederick.
not like Prince Frederick.
That is so cool. Okay, now you're one of the library people?
No, I'm a friend of Grace Mary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This evening to talk about Women of Achievement of Calvert County. I'll introduce her in a couple of minutes after I give you some public service announcements from your library. I'm Kat Hoffman, the director of the library, for those of you who don't know me. And it's been my pleasure, as well as some people on my staff, to work on this lecture series and to do a number of things for the Calvert County 350th anniversary celebration, along helping out Herman Sheeky, who's here. Wave at everybody, Herman. He's the director of tourism for the county and in charge of the 350th anniversary celebration. There's many things happening in the county for the 350th anniversary. I'd like to tell you about a couple of things library related and a couple of other library programs that you might be interested in. We have a poetry contest for the Calvert County 350th anniversary. It's going on right now with a deadline coming up soon, March 15th. So if you are a poet or you know any poets, I see a poet in the audience who probably would like to write something. It's for ages 8 to adult. Girl Scouts is a great thing for you to get involved in. And the theme is Calvert Heritage. So there's rules and regulations, of course, if anybody is interested in the details. We have an independent movie series going on at the library, and it's every Tuesday? Every Tuesday in March. And it started off really neat the other night with a OT, Our Town, which has been written up in pretty much all of the media. And it will continue each Tuesday with independent films, which you get to see independent films. So we're really lucky to be able to bring that to you. The Friends of the Library are having a fundraiser, trying to do something different. They're going to hold a basket bingo on March 28th on a Sunday at the Dunkirk Fire Department. Doors will open at 12:30, and the bingo itself begins at 2 o'clock. This is a new venture for the Friends of the Library. I haven't been to a basket bingo, but I understand they're very popular. And if you haven't been to one, you want to try it out, come try out ours. It should be fun. Okay, the next in the series of 350th Calvert History Comes to Life will be in April, on a Tuesday, April 13th. That one will be at the Prince Frederick Library, and we will have Ed Cheney with us that evening. He will be talking about archaeology in the county, 350 years and a whole lot more, and he has a lot to share with us. Saturday, April 17th is the big day for our county, and in Prince Frederick there'll be a parade and a festival. So hopefully everybody who lives in the county will find a reason to come to Prince Frederick that day. But the library will be holding an author extravaganza from 1 to 4 that day. Herman, did you want to mention something about April 17th?
1,108 people are in the parade.
Wow.
This is the parade of the forever for Calvert County.
Unlike the Christmas parade, very interesting. And there's at least one animal. Herman said that there's 1,108 people in the parade.
Well, that doesn't count the animals and the horses and the dogs.
Right.
And all the other stuff.
And the library will be in the parade, so come to the parade and wave. April 17th. The parade is at what time?
10 o'clock.
Probably 10 to 12 or so. Okay.
Cool.
That's really going to be a fun day. A lot to do all throughout Prince Frederick. I wanted to know if anybody here has been to well, all 3 lectures now. Oh, there's a lot of you. Okay. Before you leave, would you see me? I'm going to take down your name. We're going to check your attendance. Because we're going to see if anybody makes it to all 12.
Cool.
And
Yes. Your name is not on that list, Herman.
we have to have a present.
We haven't talked about that yet, but yes, we will have a present and perhaps a drawing. And thanks to Jenny Welker Plummer for that great idea to have a prize for people who attend, who make it to all of them. And there's quite a good number of you, so that's exciting. Now, if you missed the first one or the second one, or if you missed any of them, you can come to the library and check out the video. And since we're taping, this is the first one, African American Community Life with Wilson Perrin, and that way, since we're taping them, you'll get to see them if you miss them, and they're really great programs. The first two have been wonderful. Okay, that's enough on the commercials. Let me introduce Grace Mary. Well, as you can see, this Grace Mary is absolutely dedicated to the work she's doing, gathering information and pictures of women of achievement in Calvert County. Some of you have seen her display at the county fair. She had her own museum there, and it was absolutely incredible. Grace Mary is a Calvert County native. She's been involved in federal, state, and county government for more than 20 years. She currently works for Delegate Pauline Menes at the Maryland General Assembly. She is on the Calvert County Planning Commission. She comes by her love of public service naturally through her family. Her of a former mayor of North Beach, Robert Meade, and she helps our county in so many ways. Just a couple of them would be the Citizens Advisory Group to the Commissioners, the North Beach Historic Commission, and she's president, of course, of Calvert County Women of Achievement. I know her as a busy person. She has an incredible civic spirit, and she's a good friend to many people in need. So please welcome Grace Mary Brady.
After all that, I'm just thrilled to see so many people here tonight to share women's history during Women's History Month. It is so important because throughout most of our lives, we've been written out of history. So this is a real celebration. My format is a little bit different than some of the previous lectures because I like to talk and walk and share, and I'm just going to start at one corner and work my way around. I'll pass out some of the smaller pictures. We have a couple Girl Scout volunteers. Enjoy, look, read, give them to either Sarah in the back or Rachel, and they'll bring them back and return them. And then when I'm finished talking, I'm very welcome questions. So this does not make up the entire exhibit. I bought 4 tables worth this evening. So if there's some women who aren't mentioned tonight, they're possibly still sitting home in my house. As Pat said, this takes a lot of work and a lot of time, and I wanted to have something very noteworthy for our county's 350th birthday. So I started last year with my goal to have X amount by the fair. So the first thing I'll start passing around is our exhibit during the fair, because there's still another 50 to 70 women that I've identified. I still don't have their pictures yet, but it's a work in progress, and I can see myself just adding to this as the years go by and displaying them at the Jefferson Patterson Park, Bay Fest, Fair, whenever it's appropriate, and people just like to look at pictures, and I like to talk, so it's a good match. I'll just start here, take your time, pass it around. When you get finished, bring them back. The methodology to some of our research for identifying the women is a very unusual story. I've been told my whole life that my grandmother was the first woman ever elected to any office in Calvert County, that she ran in 1938 on Louis Goldstein's ticket, which she did, and she won her office of Democratic Central Committee. However, when I spent months in Annapolis at the archives and started doing research, I had to call my mother at home one day and say, "Mom, are you sitting down? Your mother was not the first woman elected in Calvert County. I found a Louisa Monett who ran for treasurer's position in 1934 for this county and won the seat. I still don't have Louisa's picture, so if anybody knows the Monett family or how we could get it, she is our first woman in Calvert County ever elected to any office. So she certainly is a significant person. We've identified her, we just don't have her picture yet. So I did a lot of research through the archives and the old Maryland manuals, identifying women who had run for office, identifying women who got appointed to boards, because there's so many boards still that we don't get appointed to. So it's really very significant for some of these earlier women for the boards that they were appointed to. So I have about 86 pages of research, and we still have about 50 or 60 women whose pictures we need to get. So if you don't see someone here tonight, I may or may not have them, but don't hesitate before you leave If there's someone that you think that needs to be identified and contacted, please fill in one of these forms. And if I don't already have them at home, we will certainly pursue that and work on getting their picture and their biographical information. So I'll just start at this end. Fire and rescue. I thought this, and I won't pass this one around because these are too big to pass around. I thought it was somewhat significant to talk about our earlier fire departments. In Calvert County, the first fire department was Company 1 in North Beach. And the significance is you always see women in the pictures, but these were women's auxiliary, and they weren't allowed to be firefighters. They weren't allowed to be in fire and rescue. I happen to love the old trucks. I lucked out at a Bay Fest last summer and met a gentleman from Virginia when I had my exhibit up, and he helped me get every single truck from 1925 to the present because he collects fire trucks, and he really liked the exhibit. So we now have one of every fire truck in this county, but I think what is important when I finish is that you look and see what an impact women had in fire and rescue right from the beginning. They were always there supporting fire and rescue service. So one of the ladies, and her name is Roberta Baker, and she was the first woman in Calvert County who was ever inducted into the Calvert County Firemen's Hall of Fame. She's always been a female member of the St. Leonard Volunteer Fire Department. Bert was very inspired by all the fire trucks, and she did all of the work on this panel. And this represents all of the first in Calvert County women in fire and rescue. Patricia Dees was the first woman firefighter and EMT, and she was also the first firefighter for Huntingtown. Down here we have Candy Talent, and she was the first woman who was allowed to drive the fire truck. She got to drive the engine. Okay? We have Judy Skinner, who was the first firefighter at the North Beach Volunteer Fire Department. Over here we have Sharon Eskins, and she was the first recipient of the Joshua Hunt Award for the Maryland State EMS Person of the Year. Moving up at top, we have our first female chief in Calvert County. And then over here we have Mary Ann Anton, who has a double credit. She was the first certified medic, and she was also the first female diver for fire and rescue here in this county. So we've been we've been very well represented in our fire and rescue by some of our fine women in Calvert County, and these larger ones I'm not going to pass around. While I'm still on fire and rescue, Claire May Buckmaster, who lives in North Beach, has spent her whole life dedicated to the North Beach Volunteer Fire Department. She spent a career trying to be, she is the first woman president of the Ladies Auxiliary of the whole Maryland State Fire Department. So this was Claire May last year as she got to ride in the bucket at the Ocean City Parade for firefighters. Now, you and I may not want to ride in the bucket, I know I don't, but this was a culmination of her achievements and goals. She just was so proud of this moment. So I'll just take that and pass them around. Under fire and rescue, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Thelma Sherbert, because this woman had such an impact to the entire county, not just the North Beach, Chesapeake Beach, Owens area. She was very business oriented. Her gas station still exists today in North Beach, Sherbert's Mobile Gas Station. She started the first woman-owned communication system in Calvert County. We didn't have communications back then. She saw the need, she got done what had to be done, and this is a picture of her and her husband in the first ambulance that we had in Calvert County. So this ambulance served the entire county from one end to another. So she is really quite a remarkable woman, and we'll just pass her around, and that's under our fire and rescue. We have Brooke Stewart up here with the fire and rescue people, although her talent is actually, she's a recorded country western CD artist. But Brooke gives so much to the community, and she has a voice that you would not believe. So she sings for fire and rescue all the time to raise money for them. So Brooke actually was the person honored in Washington, D.C. when she sang for the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend after 9/11. Brooke and her family live here in Calvert County. They're just very dedicated to the community, and they just give a tremendous amount of themselves to the community. All of this was free. She just did it out of the kindness of her heart. So she's the type of woman that we want to honor, but she really has a lot of different values, so she's just quite interesting. This is the first fire truck ever in Calvert County. So we'll give the people back here a little something to look at. We can start that one right now. Okay. Catherine Hurry. She was the first woman president of the school board. She has also been very instrumental to our earlier libraries. Her mother, with the work that she had done in getting a bookmobile started, because we really didn't have the library support that we have now. We were very, very fortunate to have her. She lives down at Breezy Point, and she's very involved with the Breezy Point community. Myrtle Patton was the first African-American public health nurse. She was giving smallpox vaccinations to laborers in 1930. Mary Krug. Why are women commissioners important? We just had the first woman elected to county commissioners. It was not Mary Krug. It was Mary Harrison, whose picture is up there. But we've only had 5 women county commissioners, and they've made a wonderful contribution to our county. We have the wonderful team. If anybody has ever had to go to the Register of Wills, we've had more than 50 years service from this mother-daughter family. This is Grace Hutchins, who served at the Register of Wills from 1950 to 1977. In 1977, her daughter Margaret Phipps took over, and Margaret is still serving as our Register of Wills. That's 50 years in just one family to the county. We talked about fire and rescue a little bit. Let's talk about law enforcement. The Calvert County Sheriff's Department has been in existence for 329 years. The first woman hired was only 20 years ago. That is Cindy Allen, and when she was hired, she worked 5 years by herself before another woman was hired. And to date, we've only had 5 women hired in the Sheriff's Department. It's a very tough field for ladies to get into. Kathy Smith is another one of our electeds. She's been elected to the Clerk of the Circuit Court from 1998 to present. She's also very involved with our Calvert Alliance Against Substance Abuse and works very, very hard in the community to educate on drug and alcohol. There's so much more that I could say about all these women that I'm passing around, because each of them have pages of bios. But these are just pictures to get your interest, and at some point in time in the future, we certainly want to do a book for all of our women of achievement for Calvert County. But this is Commissioner Linda Kelly. She was elected to the Board of Commissioners in 1994 to present. She was the chair of the board from 98 to 2000, and she's one of the founding members of Safe Harbor. So that's just a little bit of information about Commissioner Kelly. Our schools. The more I do this project, you don't know how much you don't know until you start to work on history projects, and you learn something every day. We have so many great stories about our schools in this county. Now, as I pass some of these around, hopefully some of you might recognize a grandmother or a grandfather. I'm getting all kinds of old pictures out of the woodwork, but we don't have them all identified. This was a picture taken during segregation in 1922. And this is the picture of the students who attended the first high school built in Calvert County. Today, this is the site of the Masonic Temple in Calvert County. As you read down, we've been very lucky. By the way, this picture was donated by Ms. Hutchins, who's here tonight. We have her to thank for this. We have many people identified, but there's still 3 who haven't been identified yet. So part of this project and part of the fun is you go to all the mementos and the fairs and all these events, and almost every time you have an event, someone comes along who can help you identify a name or a person on a picture that you didn't have before. This was Huntingtown High School picture, and this picture was donated by Margaret Phipps, and you can see we have 4 or 5 blanks in here. So just gladly pass it around, and you never know, you might know someone. This was called normal school, and you had to go here if you wanted to be an elementary school teacher. So this is a picture in 1927 that was again donated by Ms. Hutchins, and it only taught elementary school teachers, so a lot of our young people from the county had to go there if they wanted to be school teachers. And today, this is Towson University. So this is kind of a very interesting picture when you know some of that. June King, for anybody who had, I see a lot of smiles. I could talk about June King for 2 hours. She was a school teacher. I worked with her with the League of Women Voters. She was just a phenomenal, phenomenal person. She still is, and this is a picture of June at one of her beloved League of Women Voters meetings. Yes, with the net fund, and that's from Barbara Fetterhall. Brooks High School. This was a real source of pride and achievement for the African American parents, teachers, and community, because it was a culmination of a long struggle for them to get a school. There's a book called Persistence, Perseverance, and Progress. This picture was donated by Eileen Stamper. Mr. Fun, is Annette here tonight? No. Oh, okay. William Sampson Brooks High School faculty in 1947. And one of our local community workers, Annette and her husband, this was their father who taught here then. So this is a fun picture to have, and it certainly has a lot of historic.
She was coming tonight, Gracie, and she became ill.
She's better. Okay. Huntingtown High School reunion. This is from Margaret Phipps because her mom, Ms. Hutchins, is in here. But there again, we have a blank. So if you can help us identify anyone in this picture from 1977. This was actually where the country school is now. And we're doing a little research on that. I've been working with the historian of the county that's sitting back there because that burnt down and the country school is there now. And but it's still right there in Huntingtown. It's where the country school is. In this county, so many people have heard about Louis Goldstein, but the unsung hero was his wife. His wife was absolutely phenomenal in her own right. She passed the bar in the 40s. She opened her own law office in Prince Frederick in the 40s. Here she is dancing with her husband. She was a realtor, a lawyer, a mother. She was just a jack of all trades and a real asset to someone like Louis Goldstein, who did so much for the county and who was so busy because he was gone a lot and she had the 3 children. So this is, and there's no building, there's no roads, there's nothing named after her. So those are the kinds of things that you need to think about as you think about history. Okay, here's Doris Spencer, and Doris is here this evening. Doris is the first African-American chair of the Democratic Central Committee. And Doris moved to our county several years ago, and she just loves living in Calvert County. She has dived right in. She's on the Citizens Advisory Board. She's involved in everything you can imagine, the AAUW, the League of Women Voters. So she really has a lot of enthusiasm for her new home. I don't need to give you your picture. Here's an artist, and I'm going to tie this person into this panel. This panel is kind of one of my favorites. Growing up here when we were little, we got milk delivered to our home in glass bottles. I normally have the milk bottle, but I don't have it with me tonight because now we have found out that they sell for hundreds of dollars a bottle on eBay. They're a collector's item. Anyway, Bill and Dale Norfolk, think of all the ones you throw away, right? Their dairy is over here on Route 4. It's no longer used as a dairy, but their farm still exists there to this day. And it's just amazing because when she grew up, her father had a dairy farm over on Boyd's Turn Road. It's where the kennel is today. That was the first dairy farm. They only had 12 cows. When she married her husband, Calvert Norfolk, they went up to more than 50 cows, and they bought the first Golden Guernseys into this county. Her husband was also extremely significant because he was the first person in Calvert County to participate, enroll, and start in soil conservation. So they're just a wonderful, wonderful family. I miss not getting the milk delivered. Chocolate. The top half was cream. You had to shake it up. It was actually raw milk that was chilled. And you shook it up. And coming from a large family, I'm the oldest of 7, I can tell you when that milk got delivered, we were fighting over that chocolate milk. Always. This one's light, so if somebody wants to look at it, that's one that you can pass around. Here's another member of the family. And Anna Norfolk Grimm was an artist. And she did local scenes in the county. And she contributed her work and all her proceeds to our local historic society. So she's just another example of an artist. We have a lot of authors and artists and singers. So these are really just examples or tidbits of other women that we need to identify. Thelma Robinson. And this is a true story. My grandmother and her were best friends growing up. And she wanted her to run for treasurer for the town of North Beach. And Thelma told her no, she wasn't going to run for an office, no, no, no. Well, the family story has it my grandmother went and signed her name that she was going to run. I believe that in a heartbeat. If you had known my grandmother, that is exactly something she would have done. Thelma served in capacity as treasurer for the town of North Beach from 1942 to 1990. She still enjoys wonderful health. She's going to be honored at a dinner next year. She's been honored by the mayor and the town of North Beach. Just a remarkable lady who has seen a lot of history and didn't want to run for that office at all. Not one bit. Jessie Jo Bowen. A lot of people know Jessie Jo, elected official to the treasurer, currently serving as on the Judge of Orphans Court. Jessie Jo is very involved in her community. She's done for the Lions, but her favorite thing and her passion is her Trinity Church. So even when she's serving for office, she still puts Trinity Church first and then the Lioness, and she is one of our elected officials. This is a sample in 1920. This photo was donated by Margaret Prouty. If you wanted to be a nurse, you had to leave this county and go to Baltimore to go to nursing school. So this is actually a picture of Margaret Prouty's mother and her mother's sister in 1920 when they're up in Baltimore going to nursing school and learning to be nurses. And that ties in somewhat with this panel. This is what Calvert Hospital used to look like. This is the original hospital. Helen Marcellus is one of our longest, most recognized nurses. But there's a lot of interesting things about this panel that I would encourage you to look at when I finish my talk. She did everything. She started at 4 o'clock in the morning. What's interesting to me is the changing in our hospitals. This was the original hospital. Anybody who goes up and down Route 4 has seen our new hospital today. This was the old one from the 50s and 60s. This is an aerial. This is what they did with the original hospital. It is now today our sheriff's department. So it's a lot of fun to see the uses of some of these buildings and to also see someone who contributed so much to the community for so many years. She started in 1942 as a ward nurse. She ended up being the first woman administrator at our nursing home, and she's just had a phenomenal career. So if you have a chance to read a little bit about Helen, I think you would enjoy this panel. This huge display here is quite significant. It's dedicated to Regina and Elizabeth Brown. They moved to Calvert County in 1930. They graduated in 1928, and these are copies of their original certificates in June of 1928, which authorized them to teach at the colored schools only. This was during segregation. The Wallville School in St. Leonard, it's now on Lloyd Bowen Road. Regina taught there most of her life. It was only 15 by 15. They received $75 a month for teaching school, and they literally had to go home to New Jersey during the summers. They would have enough money to live on because they didn't get paid during the summer. They only got paid for the months when they worked. Regina was a principal and teacher during her first years at Wallville from 31 to 34. She went to Island Creek Elementary, where she stayed there until she retired. Her sister Elizabeth always taught up at Mount Hope. She was a principal and taught there also. What's so significant about them in so many ways is imagine during segregation, imagine 1937, and they're saying we're getting $600 a year to teach, and the white teachers are getting $1,200 a year. They hired Thurgood Marshall, and their case to this day was a landmark case throughout the entire country because they won their case and they got equal pay for the colored teachers, the same as the white. So they really deserve all of this display. They were just first in so many ways. They traveled when black women could not travel. They traveled with the Black Teachers Association. They went all over the world. They bought a house when a woman could not buy a house, much less a black woman. And I've interviewed and talked to them numerous times because they were my neighbors when I was growing up on Boydstone Road, and they still live there. And I asked Regina, how were you able to get a loan at the bank? She had a good reputation at the school. That's all it took for her to buy the house that both these sisters still live into today. They never married, they have no children, and they're both in their 90s. So really, they are just landmark in so many ways. They're traveling, their house, everything, just phenomenal. Paula Reed and her twin sister. Okay? I had to get permission from the Secret Service to use Paula in my display. Paula and her sister are from Calvert County. I actually worked with their mother, Phyllis, for years at Stennett's Restaurant over in Chesapeake Beach when I was growing up. And Paula is the first African-American woman to ever be entitled to be on a Secret Service detail for a president who's in office. It's just, if you ever met her, I don't have the words to describe the impact of meeting her. She's compact, she's energetic, she's feisty, she loves her job, and she will do whatever has to be done. Her sister, Pam, is just as competent, just as interesting. Her sister is the first African-American in the county solicitor's office here in Calvert County. She's one of our county attorneys. They are just, they're such a phenomenal family, and they're very interesting. And if you talk to Phyllis, she'll say most of their energy and their ability comes from their church, because to Phyllis, Paula, and Pam, the church was the most significant, stable part of their life growing up. These are samples of businesses in Calvert County. This is the original Woodburns taken in 1955. This is fun because if you go to Solomon's, this is where CD's Cafe is today. So think of that the next time you go down to Solomon's. This was very typical of all the mom and pop stores that we used to have in Calvert County. I've identified pages of them. We're trying to find people that might have pictures of some of these old stores because they're disappearing faster than we can get them recorded and getting pictures of them. Because growing up here, I can tell you half of these stores are gone now already. And it's just such a sad thing to lose because we had so many little community stores in this county for so long. So do read this one, and if you know anyone here or have any information, let me know. Donnie Radcliffe is a sample of a woman author. Donnie also works very hard for your library foundation and donates her time, ability, and resources on the Calvert County Library Foundation. She wrote a book, Simply Barbara Bush, Hillary Clinton. I have her in the display as an example of an author. If you know other women authors, please let me know today before you leave and fill in a form. Very accomplished. She had more than 20 years with the Washington Post, and she lives right here in Calvert County. Rella Ward is an example of an early bookkeeper before you had certified public accountants. She certainly did everything that a CPA would do without the title. You really have to pay attention to what's in the background of this picture as we hand it around, because these are the old lumber company lines in Gibson in 1926, and today this is a dance studio. So sometimes you like the picture of the woman that's in front, but it's also very interesting to see what's behind that picture many times. So there.
Is this the building in Huntingtown?
Yes, yes, it still exists. Alberta Jones. Alberta is an example of a lady who strived to persevere during a time of segregation. Her son Lambertine, I grew up with, his sister Grace, who's now 80. Alberta had to work during the day because at that time during segregation, she was not allowed to be on the streets after 6 o'clock. So she did what she do to raise her family. She wanted her family to have a better life, and she's raised a beautiful family. And in interviewing and talking to Lambertine, her faith got her through everything. Nothing mattered as long as she got to the church on Sunday. So she's very, very special. And Pat Hoffman, we all know, she's responsible for our My Very series. But Pat is director of the library since July 1st, 1995, but she's worked for our library system since 1985. She's totally dedicated to the wonderful libraries we have here in Calvert County. Oh, here's a picture at a town dedication with Mayor Frazier on Thelma Robinson that I talked about earlier, who was the town treasurer. Her daughter, Betty Friesland, was also the longest-serving clerk to the town of North Beach, serving from 1961 to 1999. So these ladies had really quite remarkable careers. Ernestine is here tonight, and I hope you enter that contest for poetry. Okay. Ernestine is another example of a local author. Here are 4 of her books on poetry. Keep them together with the picture, and Ernestine, make sure you enter that contest for poetry. Everybody here wants you to. Gail Bennett, one of our wonderful school board representatives. She has served the county well her entire life. First appointed to the school board and then ran for an elected school board position. There's so much more about all of these ladies, but we just need to give you a tidbit. Edith Roland, an example of a woman successful business. Mrs. Roland started in 1970 with her husband Carlos. They started with the music store because he was a musician. He had pianos and organs, gave music lessons. She learned the business inside out and decided a couple years later she wanted to try her own card store. For anyone who has been in Prince Frederick at that beautiful Hallmark, that's 31 years for a successful woman's business store. Oh, I saw Sonny and Marge here. Marge Radcliffe and Sonny Wainwright, you can kill me later. They were the first certified organic farm in 1994. To date, the county only has 3 certified organic farms. And if you're interested in that, they could explain it in greater detail to you later, but it means no pesticides, no herbicides, no chemicals. Very successful farm. Marge also was an appointed and elected official to the Town Council for Chesapeake Beach. The talk would not be complete without talking about one of our first ladies. Our county has the most unusual distinction. We have 2 first ladies in Calvert County from St. Leonard. So imagine 5,000 counties in the country and 45 first ladies, and 2 of them are from Calvert County and both of them are from St. Leonard. So this is Margaret Mabel Taylor. She was born September 21st, 1788, and she was married to President Zachary Taylor. Now, she is, Mabel Briscoe is a direct descendant. So that puts the tie in. That's how it was possible for us to get this picture. And Mabel has just done everything, and like I said, you can't put it all in these pictures, but she's a phenomenal gardener. She's a master gardener. She's involved with the Historic Society, and I just love this picture of her. This was my grandmother, the first Grace. I'm Gracie number 3. And she was the one who ran and won her office in 1938, which was really quite remarkable for any woman to run for an office in the 30s, much less win. She ran on the ticket with Bowie Goldstein at that time. We have Commissioner Barbara Stennett. Barbara has had the most interesting political career. She has won 4 elections. She's lost 2 to the 1st district requirement. She's been involved in politics her entire life, the Fair Board, you name it, and former Commissioner Barbara Stinnett has really done it. So there you go. We have Joyce Terhys. She was the first Republican woman ever elected to the Board of County Commissioners. She served from 1986 to 1994, and she was the original founder of the Dunkirk Area Citizens Association. Eileen Stamper. She got probably the most reaction to anyone, bar none, in the exhibit at the fair. Everyone came in and said, "Oh, Miss Stamper, oh, Miss Stamper, she taught me, she read to me." To have so much impact on more than 40 years of education, where do you begin with somebody like Miss Stamper? She got a master's degree in 1953. She taught at Brooks High School from 43 to 78. She's retired. Her degrees were in economics, and she has just given so much to the community. Yeah, thank you. Since this is a library talk, it was appropriate to bring this first founding library picture. These were some of our earlier ladies of the library from 1959. And they started our bookmobiles at that time, promoted our libraries, and these were just absolutely remarkable women. We have Myrtle Burnhill, Mildred Hairston, Dottie Childs, Kitty Hurry, and I'll pass this around. For all of our animal lovers, our first woman veterinarian, Jo Moyer. Jo is very involved with Calvert Animal Welfare League. She comes back from Florida to check the new building that's being built down on Stokely Road. She still loves Calvert County, although she is now retired. But this is our first woman veterinarian. Title IX for women. We had to have Title IX so our young girls could have the same equal sports time as the men did. This is a very accomplished group of young women who won the World Series this past year. So it just shows you what girls and parents can do. They went to Michigan for the championship. They won. They represented this county very well. And here are all the girls who won the 2003 World Series last year involved. Now, Herman told you there's going to be over 1,000 people in our 350th parade. I brought these pictures along because these are for fun. This was our 1954 parade when we had our tercentenary. And they're also significant for Women's Talk because you'll see that it was the Business Men's Association of Solomons. A lot of this was just for the men. There's going to be a big difference in the parade that we have on April 17th. So you really need to see just the difference that 50 years can make. So do enjoy looking at these. I bought this one for fun. My mother doesn't know I took it out of her book. 1954, she was celebrating the tercentenary ball. So I just want to pass this one around because that was our 300th anniversary, and you can compare it with how people are going to dress for the 350th anniversary. Now we're going to have 2 projects for Calvert's 350th anniversary. And before I take questions, I wanted to share with you the second picture exhibit, an example of that, because many people here might have pictures that I could use or information or enjoy knowing what's going to happen on July 3rd. I'm going to have 2 picture history projects for our 350th anniversary. The women's exhibit is moving on, and I'm getting pictures weekly on that. But I thought it would be fun to do Calvert County then and now. So we're taking old pictures of Calvert County. This is an example of when you came down to Chesapeake Beach and you got off of the steamboat. This was rapid transportation from Chesapeake Beach. And you see these 2 stately, dignified ladies sitting on their cart with their little gowns tucked up underneath of them. And this is how they got around on this wonderful cart with this oxen pulling it. That was the post office in Chesapeake Beach, an old historic one, and likewise, you can note the oxen and horses in front of it. And if you're familiar with Chesapeake Beach, this building still exists next to Tucker Sunoco. And I can tell you can't look down there now and see farms or oxen. So what I do is I take an old picture of what used to be, and I go stand in the spot and take a picture of what's there now. So it'll be a lot of fun because we have new people who love our county, they've moved here, and this will help them know what used to be there when and what's there now. Oscar's Crab House was at the end of North Beach Pier. That is no longer there now, but we do have a fishing pier. And I'm starting with the beach because I've worked around the whole county. I tried to pull something out of my exhibit for everyone. This is the Union Church in North Beach. This was the original church in 1925. Churches have always been a very significant part of our county's history. This is the Dreamland Steamboat. This was how everyone got around in our county. Now when I go stand on this spot, I'm on 17th Street and I'm just looking out at water. This is what St. Anthony's Church used to look like in 1915 in North Beach, rectory and church. This was the Rod and Reel, which is a familiar spot for everyone. Oh, this is kind of a double picture. This is North Beach in 1915. This is where the town hall is today. But what's interesting about this picture, this was the lumber company in 1915. In 1935, my grandfather owned the Meads Lumber Company, and it was this lumber company that caught on fire in 1945 and burnt the entire block down to the ground.
Well, I wouldn't tell that story.
Somebody say they remember that. All right, Jimmy's Seafood Hotel and Inn. This is where Lito's Pizza is today in Chesapeake Beach. So these are just samples of what you'll see when you come to Stennett's. How many people have been to Chesapeake Beach? This is the original Stennett's restaurant. I just love that picture. Murphy's still exists today. Not as Murphy's, but this went from Murphy's to Pop Glickfield. And this is an aerial photo of North Beach, which is very significant because this is all gone now. Just in this short period of time, this is all gone in less than 5 years. 1953, this was the railroad, what did you call it? The station, thank you. In 1953, and look at it today. If you've been to Chesapeake Beach, it's still there, and we have the new hotel. This is a funny picture. I got this in the mail from out of state. This gentleman's grandfather owned this bowling alley in North Beach in 1931. It later became the infamous Gold Key Club, and today it's just a parking lot. So you just don't know. Let's do some more. First Atlantic and Pacific grocery store. Today, this is an antique shop. Down in North Beach, on that corner where Dale's nicest leads. Yes, right across the street from that. Camp Roosevelt. I'll have several panels at the Now and Then exhibit July 3rd. Camp Roosevelt is quite unusual because like our First Ladies, it was the first Boy Scout camp that came to this country in 1905. At that time it was called Camp Archibald Butt. It was closed down from 1918 to the early 20s. When it reopened, it was called Camp Roosevelt. My parents bought this in the 60s. It was offered to the county, who turned it down, and they bought it at that time. But this is how the original mess hall used to look like, and they restored this to their home. Yes, the league, Barbara Federhoff, yes we did. Wonderful league parties there. This is just great. Now we're in Breezy Point of Calvert County. This is in the 1920s, and these are all the old cars parked, ready to get on the beach and go for swimming. And in doing oral histories with Charlie Becker, who is the grandson of the founder of Breezy Point, they used to come down there and rent women's bathing suits for a penny. They were blue wool bathing suits for a penny. This was the snack bar and concession stand in Breezy Point, which went down in the 50s during the hurricane. This doesn't exist anymore. And when I went down to take the now picture, the county owns this and our Welcome Center is there on the beach. So it just kind of, it's a lot of fun. Oh, and does anybody know where this is in Dunkirk? All of this land, this is Route 4, and you have a farm all the way back to the river. Now where in Dunkirk is this? Pitch Eisman's farm. So that's just a fun aerial picture, which isn't necessarily old, but is significant when you think of all the development, especially in the Dunkirk area. This picture is also from Miss Terhees. This was the Smithville Church in the early 1900s, and the church looks different from this now. This was her father's, back again to the little mom and pop stores. This was their family's grocery store on the corner of Route 4 up here, and today this is the Sun Bank. And this has only been 18 years ago, so we've lost so many of our little mom and pop community stores in the last 20 years. This one is quite fun because if you know this individual, he looks just like his grandfather.